So we're here by MB&F with Harris Yadiraglu. It's always complicated, even 5 years later on. I mean, but there we are. So 5 years of co-creation that you're celebrating in a certain way with a new piece. But let's go back on these co-creations that you've done.
Sure. Well, you're absolutely right. We were here exactly 5 years ago in Basel with you guys, with you, Marc-André, and your team. And we were presenting at the time the very first co-creation piece we ever made. It was a music box called the Music Machine, you certainly remember. And honestly, we had no idea what that would open up in the next years. 5 years later, this is our 10th co-creation. There have been 3 music boxes with our friends at Rouge, music box manufacturers. There's been a pen with Carandache, launched recently a few months ago, Astrograph. And this is our 6th table clock with our also good friends from L'Épée, 1839. So who would have guessed that this would create an entirely new collection within MB&F?
But we're staying in space world, space dimension. So talk to us about this fantastic rocket.
All right, you're right. I mean, definitely we're in science fiction and in space and so on. This co-creation has a funny story because the actual first step comes from an engineer at L'Épée, who's also a sci-fi fan. And that engineer, whose name is Nicolas Bringuet, had this idea over the weekend on his spare time to create a vertically stacked movement that reminded him a bit of a rocket. So, totally spontaneously, this guy creates an entirely new movement, goes to his boss at L'Épée, Arnaud Nicolas, comes to see us and says, can we do something with this? And of course, we guessed this could become a rocket right away. Then, as usual, we did the concept, the design, hand it over to L'Épée, who does the engineering and the manufacturing, and you get Destination Moon.
And in terms of engineering, I believe this is a new movement that they've developed especially for this Destination Moon, right?
Exactly. In the past, the previous 5 clocks, we took existing movements from L'Épée and we modified them, more or less, but there were always some pretty significant modifications. This is entirely new. This was created for Destination Moon.
And is it going to be also a limited edition?
Yes, it's 4 editions. This is the black one. There's a blue, a green, and a silver. Each one is limited to 50 pieces, just 50, and the retail price in Swiss francs before taxes is 19,900 francs.
And the fact of positioning at that price, was it kind of a deliberate decision for you guys?
Never. Price is never the starting point or any point in the process. We always do something we believe in and then figure out what it actually costs us. So the price is always the result of the creative process, of the manufacturing process, but never a deliberate decision to start with, no.
So despite looking like a real well-engineered rocket, it draws a lot of craftsmanship skills behind.
It does, and that's what we liked at L'Épée right away, from that very first clock we created back then. It's very similar to watchmaking, of course. Huh? The skills involved, the finishing, the engineering is pretty much like a wristwatch. Of course, in bigger sizes, but we resonate with this absolutely 100%.
I see a little astronaut here, and I believe he can move around the rocket, can't he?
You're absolutely right. We didn't mention it, but of course the clock gives hours and minutes on these revolving discs. Down here at the bottom is the oversized winding crown, so that's how you give the power to the rocket. And yes, like any rocket, you need an astronaut, right? So this is Neil. He's magnetically attached, as you can see. Our little silver and stainless steel figurine, and you can attach him anywhere on this ladder, so he's ready to take off.
And just on a technical level, once the timepiece is being totally wind up, how much power reserve do you have with this one?
I should have mentioned 8 days. It's a single barrel, 8 days, and that's one of the signatures of L'Épée, long power reserves.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and have a great Baselworld.
You too.
Thank you.